Welcome, everyone, to Talented Universe on this glorious day in August the 13th, 2025. And I am so happy that we are here. We have a special guest from the Librarians, the next chapter. But first, I'd like to introduce my hosts and co-hosts and all that fun stuff first. Marcia, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. So I'm thrilled to be able to dive into uh, this work.
Yeah, so am I. Liz, how are you doing?
Same thing. I am so thrilled that Rebecca is here. We have a lot of awesome questions for her. So I don't hope we make her go, I don't want to answer that. Don't ask me that personal stuff about my childhood. So
Yeah, well, we might have to kick you out, Liz, if that happens.
okay.
We don't know what's going on. But first of all, before I introduce her, we have a hello from Sawan Rebecca. Sawan says hello, everyone, and I would like to introduce Rebecca Rosenberg, who I am so excited. She's our first writer, if I remember correctly, from the Librarians, the next chapter, to be on with us. So getting right in, I'm just going to let Liz go ahead and ask all those fun questions first to get them out of the way.
Let's do it.
My fun question would be, when you were a young child, it seemed that you had a less than what we would consider very strict parenting growing up. Certain other things took priority,
Yes.
like television and movies.
Yep.
What was, I'm not quite sure how to phrase this without coming out sounding weird. Did you feel different than the other kids, or in that degree of being pushed more to watch, or to be around in the cultural industry? And then, what was your favorite television show growing up?
Oh, that's a tough question. Well, first off, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. It's really great to get to talk with you guys and the fans. It's a great question. So I do love to say that my parents prioritized pop culture over homework growing up. It's part of my bio. It's definitely a part of who I am as a writer and as a viewer and a fan. I remember distinctly when I was like in middle school, high school, that there were instances of nights where I'd be doing homework upstairs in my room or like studying for a test or something. And my parents would come up and be like, knock, knock, it's time to watch 24 or Lost or Gilmore Girls. And I'd be like, oh, well, I'm studying for a test. And they're like, well, we're going to start without you. So come on down. So that was sort of the vibe. As to your question, honestly, I felt really lucky. Like my family, we were big readers growing up. I remember my dad read me The Hobbit before bed every night when I was in second grade. So like indoctrinated me into the nerddom very, very early.
Good father.
Yes. And I just grew up in a world of books and magic and storytelling. I grew up in New Jersey, pretty close to New York, and I was actually born in Manhattan, and then we moved to the suburbs. And going to like musicals and seeing plays was something that I was really privileged and like excited to get to do. I saw like Wicked was like my falling in love with the theater, Avenue Q, Rent, like all those classic musicals. And so, yeah, storytelling was just a huge part of growing up. And it definitely is a huge part of why I pursued this career path. As for my favorite shows growing up, there's so many, but I think the one that made me want to become a television writer was actually Veronica Mars. Yeah, which is, a high school noir murder mystery. Yeah. I remember that being the first show where when I was watching it, I suddenly made the connection that, oh, there are people that write this, like this is a job that you can have, and did like a deep dive into understanding the world of television writing. But most of my favorite shows were genre stuff. So like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Lost, Chuck, so many. And then I also love some comedies like, The Office, Friends, How I Met Your Mother. Like those were all the big shows when I was younger. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does answer the question, and actually kind of partially answered a couple of my follow-up questions. And I'll just make it really quick since it cannot all tie in together, and then I'll throw it to Marcia. But you mentioned screenwriting, and then for people that in the audience that don't know, can you explain what the difference is between, script writing or screenwriting for like an episode or two versus a story editor for like the entire, season of the show, of a show?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So the way that television writing typically works in the United States, it can be different in other parts of the world, is that we have a writer's room, and the writer's room, we have 8 people in the librarian's room, including our showrunner, Dean Devlin. And we range from staff writer all the way up to executive producer. And basically all those titles on these shows just mean that we are all writers in the room, even including the staff writers. Like everyone is in the room for the whole season. We break the stories together, and then we go off and write individual episodes. The difference that happens like as you sort of rise the ranks is levels of responsibility, how many episodes you write, and how involved you are in production and getting to go to set and in post-production and stuff like that. So, I started as a staff writer on the Outpost like 5 years ago, and got like really great, training to understand how rooms work. And then now I'm a co-producer on the Librarians. And so I write a little bit more episodes and I have a little more responsibility on me. It might mean that Dean might ask me to like do some other work, whether that's like writing story docs for the network or the studio. So it's interesting because I feel like I get this question a lot from people, especially not in the industry, of like, what does story editor mean? Or what does co-producer mean? And really, they all just mean that we are writers on a show. Like we're all writers that work together in the room. It's just a level of experience. That's the difference.
And I appreciate that answering. I think the three of us here kind of understood what it was, but I know we have a lot of viewers, and I'm sure that they were questioning that. And
totally.
And just a really quick tie-in. You have written, like you said, for the Outpost, the Arc, Librarians, and Arrow. So you really do like to stay in that fantasy realm as far as what you're doing in your writing.
Yeah.
So
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you'd never think of like switching over to something a little more mainstream, like comedy or something.
I mean, as a writer, I really like to sort of try everything. The other genre that I really love is romance and rom-coms, and so I would love to write a straightforward romance, whether that's a feature or like a soapy melodramatic show. Like I love that kind of stuff too. But I did grow up, falling in love with genre stuff, Star Wars and Terminator and Back to the Future, and like all that stuff was very much like what my dad and my mom raised me to be obsessed with. And so the fact that I've gotten to write for a superhero show, a space show, a high fantasy show, and now a contemporary fantasy show is truly like getting to live out my childhood dreams. Like it's very, very fun. And it's one of those jobs where when we are sitting in the room together, talking about, like, for example, in season 1, Cupid being the guest character on my episode of the show, I like feel very sort of out of body, being like, I can't believe that this is my job, that we get to like play and basically play pretend in the room while we're figuring out story. It's very fun.
Yeah, and Marcia, I lied. I noticed there's starting to get to be a lot of stuff in the chat room, so I'm going to throw it back to Michael real quick. And
yeah, thank you for doing that. Justin has Rebecca, dear, what would you say is your biggest inspiration and hurdle when writing, even if it's from personal experiences? And then which actor character is the hardest to write for and come up with storylines for? And we'll just focus this on the Librarians, the next chapter.
Okay. My biggest inspiration, these are tough questions, especially for like a show like The Librarians when we're working together in a room.
Mhm.
I feel like my inspiration sort of comes from the room and the writers, and like, you know, we do a lot of for The Librarians especially, we do a lot of research into like mythology and fairy tales and stories. I actually remember for season 1, before we started the room, we got to go on a trip to Belgrade, which is where we film.
You
And
did.
yeah,
That
so
was one of my questions I was going to ask. There goes that.
so I'm happy to talk more about it too, because I
Mhm.
also went to cover for set, but this was pre the room, and we went and we did a location scouting trip. And
Oh.
part of the reason that Dean had us do that was as a source of inspiration for the show. So we got to see all these great historical sites,
Yeah.
and places where we might be able to film. And we did use a lot of those in season 1. And so that was just like a huge inspiration. And I remember talking to a lot of our amazing crew that we met while we were there about like Serbian folk tales and folklore. And, you know, that's been really fun to dive into and use as I think, really unique way of doing stories in
Mhm.
Librarians, especially because Belgrade is such an interesting city with such a rich history. So that's definitely, I feel like, a unique inspiration for this show specifically. As far as hurdles when writing, I feel like the biggest hurdles always are production based. Like, you know, any show that you work on is going to have budgetary limits. And
Mhm.
so when you're writing, the way that I like to do it is the first draft, I write the best, biggest version of the script, like ignoring what the budget will be. And then you have to reel it back in.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to ask for the the universe and then just get
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know the alley.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, I'm going to do one more. It's a double question because she realized she wanted more specific. Sawan asked, could you describe a typical day in the writer's room? And then she says, preferably one that happened when you were writing The Librarians.
Yeah, absolutely. So our room day usually starts around 9:30 a.m. We are lucky that we're an in-person writer's room, so we go into the office. We do have one writer who is not based in LA, so we also have a computer, like a Zoom.
A Zoom meeting.
But usually get in around 9:30. We sort of shoot the shit for like a half hour, catch up. Fridays are the best because Fridays are Bagel Friday, where the office brings in bagels, which is lovely. And then we, get right to work, especially once Dean comes in, he'll sort of give us what our directive for the day is. It depends at what point in the season we are in terms of breaking. So like, for example, like at the beginning of the season, we do what's called Blue Sky, which is like, you just like talk about lots of story ideas. We throw up note cards about different myths or, original ideas, like anything artifacts that we might want to see the librarians, play with. So that's what we call blue skying. If we're further along in the season, we're probably specifically breaking a single episode. And I keep saying the word break. That's what we call it when we are figuring out the story beats of an episode, basically. And so we will spend probably, 2.5 hours just like working on those story beats, whether it's the emotional story or the plot points or just like fun scenes that we want to see. We talk through them together. Then we'll have lunch together in the room. We usually go for a walk after lunch together to get a little fresh air, because you're sitting in the same room all day. I know John Rogers, one of our executive producers, he likes to say that you have to go outside because otherwise you're breathing the same air all day and you end up getting sleepy. So we go outside and we take a walk, and then we come back in, and we usually do another 2 to 3 hours of story breaking, and then we're usually done by around 4 p.m. That it can sometimes go later or earlier depending on how we're doing. I know that there are some shows sometimes that go later, but I have found that once you hit like 5 p.m., your brain kind of stops wanting to make stories for the day. And it's really better to come in fresh the next day versus like pounding your head against the wall, like trying to figure out something that you might be having trouble with. So it usually is better to like step away from it, take a break, and then come back fresh the next day. Yeah, it's a fun way to work. We're just sitting in a room figuring out story all day.
Yeah, I can see that. Marcia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. Continuing kind of with the work of a writer's room and being a writer today, a lot of people ask about the software that you might use. Is there a particular software that you use conjunctively or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the industry-wide sort of norm is we use Final Draft, which is for the scripts. But before the scripts, like when we're writing outlines or anything like that, we usually just use Pages or Microsoft Word, like anything like that. You can even use Google Docs. I know that on this show we prefer Pages generally, but then Final Draft is what we use for scripts. Other software on this show, no, not really. Like there's nothing else that we're using to, Google when we're trying to look up stuff, but like that's it.
And I really have appreciated the work of the writers in the librarians in educating me in Belgrade and Serbia,
Yeah.
kind of on the sly even.
Yeah.
I'm not even aware that I'm learning more about this beautiful area. What was the first time that you went to Belgrade? You mentioned that you had been there on a.
Yes. So I got to go twice, well, 3 times, I guess. So I went for the location scouting trip, which was before we started writing season 1. And that was great, especially because that was specifically for us to really just like learn the lay of the land and like see a lot of historical sites, interesting places to film, stuff like that. And then I went again during season 1 to cover production for my episodes. I really love the city. Like it is such an unexpectedly beautiful city. The place where we stay is really central, and also a lot of the filming locations where we go are like right in the middle of the city. Like I could walk to them from my hotel, which is very cool. And it was fun to get to explore on the weekends and just like, see the different restaurants and the food and the, Kalamagdan is the big fortress where we have filmed many episodes. And walking there and just exploring the grounds was really fun. The one thing that I personally am not a fan of in Belgrade is that everyone smokes. Like it's a big smoking city. And I am not a smoker. And so that was definitely a cultural like difference to get used to while I was there. But besides that, like it was just like such a fun new place to visit. I love traveling. And so it was cool to get to do that for work.
And in a show like The Outpost, for instance, where you have and Librarians, where you have a mythos, you create a whole other universe.
Yeah.
Is there what they have called a Bible that is developed so that a new writer, say coming in, would be able to say, okay, I know what terms we use, what.
Yeah, so Librarians is actually really different because it's a reboot of, the original show.
Yes.
And so that means that this comes with a large history of stories and artifacts and, terminology and like all that stuff. And so we do actually have like a huge document that like has all the artifacts from the original show and like so that we know characters and guest characters and, different things so that we know when we're building new stories, have we done this before? Is this something that we can do a callback to? Is there a way to play on this thing from the past? And we're also lucky that we have several writers from the original show in our room. And so that helps too, because we can always, call on their knowledge to make sure that we're not repeating or that we're doing something fun to, to call back to the original show. So that's sort of what our Bible is like for this show. For the Outpost, I don't remember if we had a Bible, but I came in on the last season of that show, and I know that my sort of studying was like watching the first show really in depth to make sure that I understood the world. And the world building is always one of my like favorite parts of writing. And so what's been really fun about the Librarians is that we, exist in this larger universe already, but we're building like our specific little corner of it in the Belgrade Annex. And so it's really fun to, expand that world and the rules of it and how the magic works, especially with our, the stuff we're doing with Vikram being a man at a time. And so, yeah, it's really fun. It's one of my favorite parts of the job.
And for the arc, which of course we're looking forward to another season soon. One of a fan favorite episodes was We Weren't Supposed to Be Awake.
Yeah.
Which as you know, both Liz and I run arc fan groups, and the comet water, the whole comet water.
Oh God, yeah.
Thing,
yeah.
You got to tell us, how did that come about? What was the spark for?
Oh, it's been a minute since we wrote that. So I don't know.
Maybe two. Yeah.
I don't know if I remember specifically, but when I feel like the answer is the same for when I get questions about the spark for pretty much anything. Like, we're in the room together, and so it's really a group effort of figuring out like where the stories come from and what is building on what we've already created for the season. I really can't remember exactly where that specific plot point came from, but it was really fun to work on.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
And we actually have a Comet Water Cafe, so that's kind of a place where you can just say anything. You can, any
I love that
heart's desire, you can come in. So we invite you to to join our groups and kind of just put around and see
and have a shot of Comet Water. We have shot glasses with it on too. So.
That's great.
That's right. Here's
it is really fun.
Oh, you got it?
But we you know how fans are.
Yes.
And
I am
also
one, so I understand.
love that you have talked about your kind of nerddom, that you're a fan of a lot of things. Say, for instance, you mentioned rom-coms.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
And Sam Hugan, who's in the Outlander, was in rom-com before he went to Outlander, which is where I first saw him. He was in actually one of the first ones I saw, which is A Princess for Christmas.
Oh yeah. I think I've seen that one.
And now that
I think my like favorite rom-coms and stuff like that are, I love Nora Ephron's movies. You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle, When Harry Met Sally. Like absolutely adore those. More recent favorites are like Crazy Rich Asians. Such a I watch it like literally every time I'm on an airplane. I loved Set It Up on Netflix. I recently just saw a great little indie rom-com called Jane Austen Wrecked My Life, which is like a play on Pride and Prejudice, which is one of my books. I just love those stories so much. They're so fun.
And my last little thing, you've got this stack of books behind you.
Yes.
Those are books, right? Not just a picture of books.
Yes, I'm a huge reader. So I'm in my office right now, and these are actually mostly nonfiction books. So like it's got a lot of my story structure, travel books. There's a lot of screenwriting books in here, and like fun stuff like that. There's enough more books over here, but most of our books are in our bookcases in our living room. That's where all the fantasy and sci-fi live.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to toss it back to Michael.
Thank you very much. I've got a question, and then I'm going to get this question. This might be a little complicated, and I don't think it's going to be the answer that you give that she wants. Sawan asked, how long does it take to write an episode of The Librarians from first to last draft?
So it's a little hard to say exactly how long it takes, because okay, so if we're doing from first to last draft, once the story has already been broken in the room, so we come up with the story together, we sort of break it out into story beats, so when you go off to outline, we have a good idea of what the episode is going to look like. Once the outline is approved, I would say a first draft can take me, if I'm in a rush, I can write it real fast in just like a few days. But I prefer to take like 1 to 2 weeks to write a first draft, to really, let it breathe and make sure that it feels good before turning it in for notes. And then like to last draft is a little tricky because it depends on like how quickly you're getting notes back from, whether it's from Dean or from the network or from production. So it's a living document. Like we really like to call scripts like blueprints. A script is something that it's sort of like an architectural blueprint that our production team is going to take, and they're going to basically dissect it and like read it as if it's a like instruction manual on how to build the episode of the show. And so once we get into production for the episode, it really can change depending on how each of our teams, like the costume team, the production design team, the director, like, and everyone has their feedback and their input. And so it continues to change right up until when we're filming. And that's one of the things that I love the most about television. Like it's not a solo sport. It's a team sport. Like we are really building something together and working together to make it the best possible version that it can be. I know that I am constantly like blown away and impressed by the artistry and magic that the production teams bring to the words that we had on the page. Like it is so, so, so cool to see it come to life. So I know it's not like a specific timeline.
Yeah, that's why I knew that was going to happen. Yeah,
but I am like, if I need to, I can write a script really fast. And that's because sometimes you're, on a tight deadline. But I prefer to take at least a couple weeks to write that first draft, just to make sure that it feels, original and real, and you have all the emotional heart that we love on this show. So yeah, that's my preference.
Okay, and my question is, when you went to Serbia to do the scouting, did you get to stop by the sets of the Outpost?
I did, yes. Yes. They're on the same lot where we film The Librarians.
And the Ark.
Yes, and everything. And that was actually, I did not go out there when I was on the Ark or the Outpost, and so it was my first time getting to see both of those sets, which was really, really cool. The Outpost set, when I saw it, was a little bit overgrown, but
they hadn't used it in a long time. So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But they cleaned it up a bit, and it was really cool to get to step on there. Like it was very fun. I took the pictures for sure.
I bet. What did you think about the Ark set?
Oh, it's so cool. The Ark, it's really interesting, the difference of writing for a show like the Ark versus the Librarians, because the Ark is a very I know it's in space, but it's a contained show. You're living on those sets for most of the episode, at least in season 1.
Season 1, definitely. Season 2, most of it. So
yes, yeah. And versus the Librarians, we are really out on location a lot of the time. So it's a very different sort of mechanism of storytelling and a different way to think about breaking episodes. So yeah, it was really fun to get to see those different sets. It always feels a little bit magical.
Oh, I'm sure, because I remember when we figured out that the Outpost sets were still there. and we were just like, oh my goodness, they're still there. And then they used them in one of the episodes of season 1.
Yes,
so I mean, that was just so nostalgic.
Yeah, and like hopefully really fun for fans of both shows to see, Jessica on that set again.
Mhm. Yes, yes.
It was fun for me. So,
And so there you go.
yeah.
There you go. And Siwan says this will be the last one. She said that was a great reply. Thanks.
Oh, I'm happy. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Gonna go back to Liz now.
Well, after you already stole at least one of my questions just a minute ago, I had to
That's my
rewire my
job.
brain.
That's my job.
I have a question, and we kind of all have a consensus of what we prefer or find the most funniest of either episodes or areas in a specific episode of the shows. What, for the librarians, what do you think or sticks out most in your mind would be your most humorous thing that you wrote for it, or an episode that you wrote, either a scene or an episode?
That's so tough, especially because I had 2 episodes that I hope were meant to be like a little bit higher in comedy because I had the Cupid episode in season 1 and the Bachelorette party episode, where there's a lot of drinking going on.
Yeah.
With them, and we wanted them to be funny for the audience. I think the 2 things that made me laugh the most on set while we were filming were, for the Cupid episode, the scene when Cupid is throwing darts and then he falls backward and they're all in the bar staring at him. Mm-hmm. That just made us laugh so much. Oh, and also when he keeps pulling out the bottles, like that the way that they, acted that was so funny. And then it's even funnier when you watch, I hope, the final version because of the sound effects that we had, and it just it really came together so well, which was lovely. And then in the Bachelorette episode, I just was constantly laughing by the different size drinks that Vikram kept drinking from. And the way that Callum played, Vikram throughout that episode, he was just finding little ways and mannerisms to really make it so funny. And I also I loved doing the different genres in that episode. It was each character really got to shine. Each of the actors got to show off their chops, and so that was really fun.
Yeah, you hit exactly on because we have a review panel as well for the librarians, and you hit on the exact spots that we found.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
And the most funniest. So yeah, you definitely did an excellent job with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kind of going a little bit away from librarians for a second. Mm-hmm. I know that you did basically an outline for a show because I've read the premise of this, The Wrong Side of History, and the whole premise sounded so amazing. Is there any chance that possibilities in the future that could be something that we might be seeing?
I hope so. That's an original pilot that I wrote. I love it. I still love it. It's not currently being made or anything. I'm not hiding anything there. But I am actually thinking about adapting that pilot into a book. So I might be writing it into a version. I love that world, and I hope that one day other people will get to read it.
Yeah, because like I said, when I read kind of the premise, the outline of it, I'm like, this is something that has a chance to be extremely well done.
Oh, cool.
So it's a really, really cool story.
Love that.
And you had mentioned that you had been back to Belgrade 3 times, you said, scouting and then other things. During that time, and I know they're going to go, oh, God, she's going to ask this question.
I saved it for you.
A lot of the actors and production staff and all have come back and just raved about the ice cream. For some reason, the ice cream is really amazing.
Yes, it is really good. Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor?
I'm a mint chocolate chip person, but I feel like the flavors that I liked there, they had a lot. I feel like there were sherbets or different fruit flavors that I really liked. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, I hate when the computer does that. But
it likes the ice cream there too.
It likes the ice cream. But yeah, I do remember the ice cream was really excellent. Actually on the last day of filming for the second episode that I was there for in season 1, we got a little ice cream truck that came to set, which was really fun.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's
Aw.
cool. That is
Yes.
absolutely cool. I want to know. This is my question to everybody across the board. We've heard this response so many times about the ice cream being so good. I mean, almost addictive. What is in it that they're doing to make it this good? I'm like dying to know.
I mean, I think it might just be that like ice cream in Europe just like tastes better, over on
Ice
that.
cream, chocolate, everything does.
Yeah.
But yeah, on that note, Marcia, I'm going to throw it at you real quick.
Okay. Thinking about your extracurricular activities
Yeah.
that you have put on your bio and whatnot, there were a couple that were really interesting to me. Have you seen the series The Gilded Age?
I have seen season 1, but I'm not caught up, and I've like heard people raving about season 3, so I
Oh
do
my
want to catch up.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it takes place in 1880s, and it's posh people who live in New York and whatnot. And so in season 2, I'm not going to spoil. I'm not spoiling anything for you,
Well,
but you mentioned needle pointing in
yes.
your bio,
Yeah.
and one of the characters talks to her daughter and asks her, and the daughter has done something that the mom doesn't like, and the daughter says, well, are you going to make me sit before the fire and do needle pointing for the rest of my life? And then when I saw that you like needle pointing, I was like, so where do you do your needle pointing? Do you sit by the fire?
I don't sit by the fire, but I do sit in front of my television. I took up needle pointing. Well, I had learned when I was a kid. Like it was definitely something my grandma did and my mom did. And so I learned how to do it when I was young, but I didn't do it for a very long time. And then I took it back up during the pandemic as just like something to do in the house that was creative and a different outlet. And I really love it. I particularly love it because it's a really good way to keep my hands busy and off my phone. Because we can all get stuck doom scrolling or just like endlessly scrolling on TikTok or whatever. And so my brain will end up hurting, and I've found that doing needlepoint is something that really is more calming to like my nervous system, and it's relaxing, and it like is really fun to make different gifts for people. It's like a fun, and people really love them because they're handcrafted, and yeah, I love it. It's such a fun hobby to have.
Do you do mostly sayings or print, or do you do pictures or?
Kind of do whatever strikes my fancy. Like I made a little Snoopy ornament, which was cute. I love
Oh,
Snoopy. I made I'm currently working on a bookmark for my husband. I've made what else? Oh, I did like a dogs on a boat. That was the first one that I did. That's hanging in my bedroom. I made an ornament that was like a bunch of images related to a place that's really important to my in-laws, and so I gave that to them as a gift. So yeah, I sort of, it depends if I'm making it for someone else or if I'm making it for myself. Like I just sort of pick whatever I think is
mhm.
yeah.
Well, I have a brother who's a reference librarian,
Mm.
and so I think about him a lot when I watch the show. But a bookmark would be super for the
Oh
librarian.
yeah, that would be fun. I don't have the skill
Needlepoint.
yet. I don't have the skill yet of painting my own canvases, but it is something that I'm interested in learning because I do think it would be really fun to make a needlepoint like that's related to each of the shows that I've worked on. I think that would be very fun. Yeah.
Excellent. And your other one of the other extracurricular activities you mentioned was figure skating.
Yes. So I took that
So,
up.
uh-huh.
I started figure skating after, I think it was like in 2018. I like became really obsessed with the Olympics, the figure skating during
Ah,
the Olympics. I just like went down a deep rabbit hole, and there was actually a rink that was near the studio where I was working at the time, and so I started taking adult figure skating lessons.
oh.
I took lessons for like 2-3 years. I don't take lessons anymore, but I still like going with my friends that I made during that time. And yeah, it was a really fun, challenging new sort of sport to figure out. And I think something that was interesting that I like learned, it really teaches you that skill of like, you're gonna fall down and then you have to just get back up and try again, you know. So that, I did love that. It was really fun.
And just with what are some of the figure skaters that you particularly like or
Yeah,
admire?
so I'm really into ice dance.
Oh yes.
And Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer were definitely favorites. I think that they were just the best and gorgeous skaters. And part of what I like about ice dance is that I think ice dance is so much about the storytelling on the ice. And so I really love them. I'm really excited. We're about to go into an Olympic year, so I'm excited to see which teams rise to the top. I know Chalk and Bates are the current like American front runners, so I do love them. And then in ladies, I really love Amber Glenn. I love Alyssa Liu. Yeah, there's so many really great talented skaters right now, and I think it'll be a good year for the U.S.
Yeah, I'm also a great watcher of figure skating for decades. I mean,
great, love that.
Carl and Dean, the whole
yeah,
that's amazing. So yeah, I totally understand that. Michael, do you want it back?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to give it back to Liz for her, if she's got some final questions or comments or whatever. Yeah.
Just Marcia touched on it as far as the figure skating, and my question had been earlier, since you've been already like to Belgrade and some of that stuff, I know they do have several like pond outdoor rinks. Did you ever try to go skate on any of those?
I did not get to do that, and I haven't skated on an outdoor rink yet. I would like to try. The time of year when I was in Belgrade, it wouldn't have been cold enough for that. We weren't there in winter. And so hopefully one day I will get to do that.
Yeah, hopefully. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I know we're probably getting ready to wrap things up shortly. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on and doing this. This was a really cool and you explained a lot that I don't think a lot of us knew. So we really appreciate that for you taking the time.
You guys had great questions. I'm so happy to be here. And I always love getting to share more about how storytelling works in television. And just like, I'm a fan of shows. And so I love interacting with fans of our show. Like, it's so fun and it makes the whole thing feel a little more real, you know?
Well, I know our fans, especially if anything of Dean's work, we're a bit rabid with our fandom. So
I think that the shows that I've gotten to work on have some of like the best fans in the world. Like, I really do feel so lucky. Everyone just like is so positive and fun, and like I feel like you guys really get the show and the spirit of it. And so yeah, I can't wait for everyone to see what we have cooking for season 2.
Oh, you have my interest piqued, believe me. So, Marcia, I'm gonna toss it to you real quick.
Since you're talking about fans, my natural instinct is to say, come to a fan convention. I produce panels and things for conventions like San Diego Comic-Con and whatnot.
Cool.
And I know there was Electricon, and hopefully there'll be another convention in the future. Have you been to a fan event or?
Yeah, I've gone to Comic-Con. I think I went 3 times while I was working on Arrow, which was really, really fun. I had just such a great time. My favorite part of Comic-Con is wandering the floor. I like to, especially going through like Artist Alley and like seeing what all the amazing talented artists are making. That's definitely my favorite part. But I also got to go to some like incredible panels, some really unexpected panels. I remember one of my favorite ones that I went to was, I can't remember what year this was, but it was a panel of like lawyers and judges talking about the politics of the Star Wars universe, and specifically about like droid rights. It was such like specific interesting panels. So I always like encourage people when they're going to cons to try and find like the smaller panels that are not like the big Hall H ones or something like that, because
Indeed.
you'll like get to like learn something cool. You might talk to some cool people in line. Like it's such a fun place to meet and interact with fans from all different universes.
That is, we probably crossed paths then, because I've been going to San Diego Comic Con for a while, so I'm sure we have. So yes, that would be wonderful. And as Liz said, and I'm sure Michael will say, thank you so much for coming and sharing your experiences with us.
Of course,
very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I have a few little comments. I can't get to all of them, but Susie had a, I don't know, and you know, just don't say anything if this is in season 2 or not. But Susie said figure skating would be another great hobby for Elaine in future episodes.
I do love that idea. That is great.
And
yes,
then,
we love Miss Astelot. Yes.
We do.
Yes,
and
we do too.
Dewan says, thank you, Rebecca. This live was super interesting.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad that you enjoyed.
And we are so happy that you came to visit us, and we would invite you to come back again anytime you want.
Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
If you've got another project, you know, before season 2, you know, that you're working on that you'd like to talk about, we'd love to have you on.
Yes, we would.
Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I would be happy to come back sometime.
Yeah, well, so we're very happy about that, but I'm trying to get us off when we told you we would try to get you off. And so everyone, thank you all for coming. Please like and subscribe and follow all of our social media so you don't miss anything. Because sometimes we have things at the last minute and we can't get the word out sometimes. So, and we have had a few of those recently.
Yes, we have.
We've had less than 24 hours notice that a guest said they had to come now or they couldn't come for months. So please like and subscribe and follow us on social media. So everyone, thank you for coming. We'll talk to you again later. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.